reporters from Capitol Hill, and we are here to talk about what the Trump administration is doing to America's consumer watchdog. President Trump keeps talking about how he wants to make America affordable and deliver for the people that put him in office, but the actions of his administration keep telling the opposite story. Step by step, brick by brick, Russ Vought has tried to tear down the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. This is the agency that was created more than a decade ago in the aftermath of the great financial crisis to protect working people from predatory banks, big tech companies, and all manner of scams trying to rip people off. I am going to be joined here today by a roster of speakers. I just want to start by saying thank you to my colleagues at Americans for Financial Reform for co-hosting this event with us, along with NTEU 335, the union that represents all of the CFPB workers that are behind me here. And with that, I am going to open this up by introducing Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley from Massachusetts, who's going to say a few words.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's good to be here with Movement family, and certainly to be here with my good colleague, my classmate, brother-in-arms on the Financial Services Committee, ranking member. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm grateful to be in good company, though the reason we're gathered is to speak really just to more hurt and harm. A year ago, we stood outside the CFPB and demanded that Elon Musk get his grubby little hands off the federal government. And well, in typical billionaire fashion, that man exited stage right when the going got hard and left working people holding the bag. Donald Trump said he would bring down costs for everyday people. Didn't have a plan for it, but said he would. Well, Donald, how's that going? Tell me how gutting this government and robbing money from babies on Medicaid has made anything great. I don't know what is efficient about making people hungrier, poorer, sicker, and less safe. Families are struggling. The rent is too damn high. The cost of groceries is too damn high. The big banks are all too eager to nickel and dime hardworking people. And you know what has been a saving grace for families trying to hold on to a buck? That little government agency called the Consumer, emphasis on consumer, Financial Protection Bureau. That's right. Yeah. Now, you may have never heard of them, but they've been working hard for you, the people, for a decade. They're a small but mighty agency that got banks to cap overdraft fees. They take on scammers that are after our elders' money. They stopped medical debt from dinging your credit report. They go after for-profit colleges. They are watchdogs fighting for the people. So no wonder Donald Trump has attacked them again and again. He doesn't want watchdogs protecting the people. He wants predators and bad actors to take people for a ride. Meanwhile, the CFPB put $21 billion, that's a B, with $1 billion back in people's pockets. Now, if you're Donald Trump or an actual billionaire, maybe that's pocket change, but not for everyday people. The good policies from the CFPB have been make or break for folks' ability to survive financially in the midst of recessions, pandemics, and much more. But this agency has been dismantled to the core. Dedicated public servants fired. Decades of institutional knowledge and expertise pushed out. Since the Trump administration has taken over, CFPB workers have been sidelined, forced to half the work they've been committed to doing on behalf of working families. And every worker that I know that has been unlawfully removed from their job, their first concern was not of the ways in which their own livelihood and lives had been disrupted. Their concerns were of the unfinished work. Who would be harmed? Who would have no recourse without them? Now every day the CFPB is sidelined. Every day it is a day when the financial system is rigged to take more from families and line the pockets of the wealthiest few. It is long past time that President Trump and CFPB Director Vought end their attacks on the CFPB and let the agency and its dedicated staff get back to the work to fight on behalf of borrowers, not billionaires. Now, let me tell you, I will always be on the side of the people. Growing up, my mom worked many jobs. I was a latchkey kid. I know what it's like to count down the days till payday. I know what it's like to figure out which bill to pay and which to delay. I know what it's like to be subject to payday lenders and for-profit student loans. I know these times are challenging, and daily it gets harder for families to make ends meet. I want you to know that we will never, stop fighting for you. Your stories and your struggles inform our work daily, and you deserve to be able to do more than just get by, but to thrive. I do believe a more just America is possible, and we'll keep fighting for it together because you deserve it.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Congresswoman. Next up, I want to introduce Congressman Sean Casten from Illinois, who is a leader on the House Financial Services Committee and has been fighting for people since his time in office.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming here today. Always a pleasure to follow my righteous warrior and comrade and seatmate on the Financial Services Committee, Ayanna Pressley. So when Congresswoman Pressley and I came in to Congress in 2019, Trump had been in office for 2 years. We finally had control of the House back, and we could control the hearings. And I remember one of the first hearings we had, you really remember this, we had then Director Kraninger, and most of the conversation was around, as the director of the Consumer Financial Protection Board, who do you represent? And we got in this whole argument about, she said, well, you have to balance consumers and business. So we're like, no, Consumer Financial Protection Board. Right. Who do you represent? And you know, what's happened since then, they don't even have a director now. They have Russ Vaught, the author of Project 2025, who's trying to gut the whole agency. And we could get into the, I don't think his employees like him very much. We could get into the litany of horribles of what they have done, starting with gross violations of the Constitution, because the Congress created the CFPB. The Congress has the power of the purse, and it is insane that we got to wait for the Supreme Court to opine on whether the Constitution still applies. We can get into all this parade of horribles, and I'm sure the people here will, but I want you to understand not so much the what as the why. Right. Because I come here ultimately as a devout proponent of free market capitalism. Not the kind of free market capitalism that some of my colleagues and maybe some members of the Supreme Court, and certainly Russ Vaught seems to think, but the kind of free market capitalism that we all learned freshman year that says Adam Smith's invisible hand doesn't happen anywhere there's a profit. It happens where there is a truly competitive market, where there are no barriers to entry, no barriers to exit, transparency of information, and if those conditions happen, then you get all the benefits of competition and you lower prices for consumers because all those good things happen. But here's the thing, there is not a business in the world that wants to exist in a world where your competitors have no barriers to entry, where you have no barriers to exit, and where you have to disclose all of your cost information to your customers. And that's fine. I spent 20 years in the energy industry, 16 as a CEO. I didn't like competition either. But our job as government, and the reason why the CFPB exists, is to make sure that we continue to have an environment where those conditions exist. And the work that the CFPB has done, those $21 billion they've returned, is because they've insisted on those basic Adam Smith free market capital positions. Let's get rid of hidden junk fees so that people can make honest, well-informed information, right? Let's make sure that if you as a business engage in acts of fraud, you have some way to get your money back, and other people who might do business with that business know this is a fraudulent business. And let's do that both to look out for consumers, but let's also do that so that the good ethical businesses look at the United States and say, this is a place where I want to work because I don't have to sacrifice my ethics to be here. That's right. So I come back to why are they doing this? And it's a math problem. The math problem is that statistically half of the people in this world are below average, which means that half of the people in this world don't want to swim in the deep end of the pool. They don't want to be in a competition. They don't want to go to the Olympics because they'll get their butt kicked. That is the Trump administration. That is Donald Trump himself. There is no one in this room who would hire Eric Trump for a job, right? They are opposed to competition for the same reason they're opposed to DEI, for the same reason they're opposed to ESG, for the same reason they're opposed to free and fair elections, because nobody likes what they're selling. And they are trying to control the power to ruin not just our democracy, but to ruin competitive markets, to ruin everything that makes America great. We should be screaming from the rafters. We should be celebrating what the CFPB has done to make us work better as a society and to make sure that mediocre people go to the poorhouse, don't end up billionaires like Donald Trump is. Thank you. I wish we didn't have to be here, but I'm grateful for all of you for all that you do. Grateful for my colleagues, and keep up the fight.
All right.
Thank you so much, Congressman. Next up, I want to invite my friend Tom Feltner, who up until very recently was at the CFPB and is now here joining us from Americans for Financial Reform.
Thank you, Mike. For over a decade, people have had a dedicated financial watchdog in their corner, the CFPB, and we've heard so much about that here already. But it is no surprise to me that the Trump administration moved quickly to shut it down in the early days of last year. And that's why Americans for Financial Reform and all the champions that are here today and working across the country have been fighting day in and day out to put the CFPB back to work and back on track. Most of us don't have a team of lawyers ready to fight financial firms when we get overcharged, when we get scammed, when we face a rigged or broken debt collection process. The CFPB is our legal team. And since it opened its doors, that team has returned over $21 billion to more than 200 million people. But hidden in those numbers are the people whose stories should be steering that agenda rather than pushed to the sidelines. It's about service members. Predatory lenders have long circled military bases, targeted military families, and charged them sky-high rates. The CFPB enforces the Military Lending Act to ensure that service members get the protections that they deserve. But right now, its enforcement work has been ground to a halt. The Trump administration has tried to fire nearly every single member of the Office of Service Member Affairs. It's also about older people. Scammers are getting smarter and they're getting faster. The CFPB watches out for financial scams and targets older people who have worked their whole lives for a dignified retirement.
That's right.
But the CFPB's Office of Older Americans can't do its job if its staff is told to stand down and the agency is shuttered. It's also about the people that turn to the CFPB every day for help. This past year alone, 5 million people turned to the CFPB for help with their financial problems, from foreclosure issues to credit reporting errors, often with no place else to go.
Right.
Since taking office, this administration has made it harder to fix these problems before they happen, harder to hold Wall Street and Silicon Valley accountable when they break the law, and just this last week, harder to even file a complaint with the consumer agency. So our call is this. We need to stop the lobbyists and special interests who want to go back to the days of the foreclosure crisis, when the rules were written by the people who profited from breaking them, and millions lost their homes and their livelihoods. We need to tell the Trump administration to listen to the people who turn to the CFPB every day for help, and we need to put the CFPB back to work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tom. It is now my great pleasure to introduce Senator Elizabeth Warren, without whom there would be no CFPB.
Right.
And who has been in the trenches with us day in, day out for more than a decade fighting for this little agency. Senator Warren.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, it is good to be here with all of you today. You know, Donald Trump ran for president, and for an entire year, he stood up every day and said on day one that he would lower costs for American families. On day one, those were his words. So what's happened since Donald Trump got elected? The answer is price of groceries, up. Price of utilities, up. Price of building a home, up. And the price of health care and health insurance, up, up, up. And why? Those things didn't just happen on their own. They happened because of policies that Donald Trump and the Republicans have been pushing. But here's the deal. When you're counting the way that costs have gone up for American families over the last year, be sure to include the cost of getting cheated, because Donald Trump has driven that cost through the roof. In fact, Donald Trump has cost American families $19 billion over the last year just by trying to shut down the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Yeah, shame. So you all may remember, just about a year ago right now, co-president Elon Musk came in with his chainsaw, tried to fire everybody at the CFPB, got stopped on it, but tried to fire it, and then worked overtime to try to shut down the work of the CFPB. They tried to cut the budget of the CFPB to zero, and they tried to shut down the complaint hotline. The whole idea was to fire the cops on the financial beat, the cops who make sure just that you get a fair shake. The cops that make sure that giant banks and student loan servicers and payday lenders at least follow the law. They tried, and boy, I gotta say, they have cost the American people enormously. So what have they done? They have actually stopped relief that was already legally owed to people from being sent. They stopped the checks from being mailed to people who've been cheated, you bet. They also stopped enforcement of the law. We know that that part by itself, the ordinary law enforcement that got set aside, cost American consumers about $3.5 billion last year. In addition to that, they stopped the cap on fees that the CFPB was putting in place. The cap on overdraft fees, the cap on credit card fees, and that has cost American consumers about $15 billion. And one more. By doing everything they can to undercut the consumer complaint hotline, where you could actually go and get some relief if your bank had cheated you, if your student loan servicer had cheated you. They've largely shut that down, again, costing American consumers hundreds of millions of dollars. So here's the deal. We're here today because we want our financial cops back on the beat.
That's right.
You bet. We are here today to remind Donald Trump and to remind all those Republicans who support him and enable him, to remind every one of them that they can kick this agency, they can try to hold this agency down, they can try to starve this agency, they can try to tie up the people who work at this agency, but at the end of the day, they will not kill this agency. We are here to remind Donald Trump, to remind the Republicans, and to remind every one of the lenders who wants to cheat American families that we will stay in this fight. Yeah, you may hold this little agency back for a while, but you won't hold it back forever. We will stay in this fight,
right.
and we will win.
Yes!
You bet. That's why I'm here.
Thank you so much, Senator.
We're clear.
Next up, we have Senator Chris Van Hollen.
All right, thank
All
you.
righty,
Thank
go
you.
get 'em, Chris.
Well, let me just start where Senator Warren left off. We will make sure the CFPB lives on and continues to protect consumers in the future.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here in this fight. Look, I want to first of all salute Senator Warren, who was really the mother of the CFPB. She had the idea originally. It was needed when she thought about it, and it's needed even more now.
Oh, yeah.
And what we've seen from day one of this lawless Trump administration is an effort to go after the CFPB. I remember being at rallies with many of you here outside of CFPB about a year ago, multiple rallies, where we said, hell no, you're not going to be able to destroy the CFPB. They have tried everything, and they have done a lot of damage. We know they've done a lot of damage. But at the end of the day, we know that fighting in the courts and fighting in our communities, that people are going to side with consumers, because we also know why the Trump administration wants to go after the CFPB, right? Because billionaires don't like to be held accountable. Fraudsters and scammers and con artists don't like to be held accountable. Fortunately, the CFPB has returned billions of dollars to consumers who were cheated, including to my constituents in Maryland. Well, thank you to CFPB. But you know what? All those scammers, they don't like it. And so they go running to the Trump administration, they go running to Russ Vought and say, take down this particular bureau because it's cramping our style. And that's the whole point of the CFPB. It cramps the style of con artists and scammers. It makes it harder for them to cheat all of our constituents and the American people. So we are in this fight. And we will prevail because at the end of the day, I know when the American people look at what's happening here, and we need to do a good job of letting them know. Thank you all for being here and blowing the whistle on what's happening. When we do that, people understand why this attack has been so outrageous and why winning this fight is so important. So thank all of you for being part of this fight. The CFPB may have been, it's taken some hits, but it is going to survive and it is going to prevail at the end of the day. That's why we're here, and that's what we're going to do. Thank you all.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Next, it's my pleasure to introduce Senator Dick Durbin from Illinois.
The year was 2008. The Democratic Senate caucus went to a meeting in Richmond, Virginia. There was a firebrand Harvard law professor who had a speech for us to hear. That speech called for the creation of a consumer protection agency in the federal government. If I remember what she said then, she said, we've got agencies that protect the toasters that we buy. What about the banks that we do business with? Made sense to me, and I called her and said, I'll write the bill with you. We sat down and wrote the bill. It became part of Dodd-Frank. I want to salute the young lady standing back here who has a Dodd-Frank. It's pretty great. That's a 15-year-old T-shirt.
But good.
It still makes sense. Here's the bottom line. We cannot expect anybody like Donald Trump to fight for consumers. It's just not in his bloodstream. But it is with America. They understand that this is a fight that we've got to win every single day against the agencies and corporations that take advantage of those who don't have the lawyers or the firepower to take them on themselves. This has been a great agency. He won't stop us. We'll fight him in courts. We'll fight him in Congress. We'll fight for consumers across America. That's what it's all about today. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Senator. Next, it is my great pleasure to invite, where's Kat? To invite Kat, the president of NCU 335, to talk about the fight for CFPB workers.
Hi, everyone. Can I just ask, if you're here, you're a CFPB union member and or ally supporter, and you're not standing, come stand with us. Come up here right now. We have signs. We're huddling together for warmth. Yes. Get over here. And thank you for being here. So I'm Kat Farman. I'm the president of CFPB Union NTU 335, and I represent nearly 1,000 workers nationwide at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. For over a year now, our union has been fighting every day, and I mean it every day. Weekends, holidays, every day our union members are fighting. It's in the streets, in the courts, at town halls, and in the halls of Congress to fight back against Trump's attempt to shut down the CFPB, because we want to get back to work protecting consumers from corporate greed.
Let us work.
Let us work. Let us work.
Let us work.
So 1 year and 2 days ago, not that I'm counting, Trump appointed Project 2025 author Russell Vogt acting director of CFPB. Yeah. More boos to come. Vogt immediately ordered CFPB workers to stop all work and locked us out of our workplaces across the country. So our union sued Vogt for illegally stopping CFPB workers from doing our jobs. Yeah, it was a great thing that we sued when we did, because within the week, Vogt had terminated 200 workers illegally, and he had 1,000 termination notices prepared, ready to go out on Friday, February 14th, Valentine's Day, the same day we got a temporary restraining order to stop him before he could fire the rest of us. By March, we had forced Vogt to not only rehire every single of the 200 fired workers, but also to pay them back pay. And in April, when Vogt tried to fire 90% of us again, we stopped him a second time. So now we're here, we're still fighting. The rumors of CFPB's demise are premature. You can still call the Consumer Complaint Hotline, and many Americans are doing so. In fact, consumer complaints are up over 100% last year. But 1 year later, Vogt's still trying to shut us down and seeking permission from federal courts to be able to do so. And Trump's one big bootlicker bill has cut CFPB's annual funding by 45%. So to stop Vogt from shutting down the CFPB for good, Congress must act to restore CFPB funding and impeach Russ Vogt, and we have to do it now. We can't wait. We cannot wait until after the midterms. We can't wait another year. 1 year has been enough to do damage to American people, and working people will pay the price if we wait longer. In 2025, as we heard, I had 18 billion written down, by the way. I didn't know it just went up to 19, so thank you for that update.
Every day that goes by.
Yeah, so now it's $19 billion that Trump and Vogt gifted to CEOs last year in financial relief that should have gone to consumers. And that's money that either was stolen from consumers or, like in the form of fees, was going to be stopped, that is now people are just paying out of pocket that they should be able to keep. So that's $19 billion just in 1 year. That includes an $80 million refund that was already set to go out to ripped off service members. Canceled. Trump and Vogt also sided with greedy health insurance CEOs and debt collectors in order to ruin Americans' credit by keeping $50 billion in medical debt on our credit reports. Trump and Russell Vogt believe it's CEOs who should run this country, not American people. We disagree. CFPB workers swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States, not the billionaires. CFPB workers are working people who serve working people like us. When a big bank or a financial company rips people off, it's CFPB workers who make them pay. We protect your paycheck and the mortgage on your house. CFPB workers work for the people, not the banks, not the CEOs. And we demand nothing less than what all working people in America deserve, a country run by and for the people. So join us, demand Congress restore CFPB funding, and impeach Russell Vogt now. And I'm proud to introduce my colleague, our next speaker. She is a badass union comrade whose courage reminds us of the power that workers have when we come together to tell our stories. And her story is a reminder we have more in common as working people than those who wish to divide us would have us believe. Please welcome rank and file member of CFPB Union, Ann Romatowski.
My name is Ann, and I'm a proud rank and file member of NTEU 335. And I'm proud of my work at the CFPB, monitoring how artificial intelligence is used in fraud and scams against American people, protecting consumers from deepfakes and data breaches, making sure lenders don't use algorithms to supercharge discrimination against people of color who are buying homes and opening credit cards, trying to stop shadowy tech companies from using massive data sets to squeeze as much money as they can out of student loan borrowers. Before last year's takeover, the CFPB was making sure medical debt didn't drag down people's credit scores. But now, Russell Vogt is siding with debt collectors and insurance companies to put $50 billion of medical debt back on Americans' credit reports. That's right. So getting sick could make it harder to rent an apartment, more expensive to lease a car, and put homeownership further out of reach for years to come. And that's personal to me. I want to bring us back to the second week of February last year. On Monday, CFPB workers were told to stop all work activity. On Tuesday, dozens of our colleagues were fired with an email that referred to them as employee first name, employee last name. On Wednesday, I joined a group of CFPB colleagues and a lot of our supporters at a picket just like this. And on Thursday, I went to go get my first ever routine mammogram. I was told on the spot that I had breast cancer. On my way home from the doctor's office, I learned that I'd been fired, effective immediately. That's right, I was diagnosed with breast cancer the same day the Trump administration illegally fired me. The first time. You see, Russell Vogt illegally fired me twice. Both times that action was overturned in court and I was reinstated thanks to the fight from this union chapter. This administration does not care about the rule of law. They've shown again and again that their approach is to break the law first and hope that no one notices or that people are too intimidated and too afraid to put up a fight. Well, we're here today because we are putting up a fight. 1 year after President Trump and Russell Vogt illegally tried to shut down the CFPB, we're still here and we're still fighting. And 1 year after my cancer diagnosis, thanks to chemotherapy, surgery, and radiation, I'm still here and I'm still fighting. Today, we're calling on all members of Congress to show us where they stand, with us or with payday lenders, with borrowers or with billionaires. We need them to make it clear where they stand by voting to restore the CFPB's funding. So we need everybody to call your members of Congress and ask them to side with the people, not predatory lenders, and ask them to fully restore the CFPB's funding. Thank you.
That was amazing, Ann. Thank you. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce my friend Jane Fox, who's back here somewhere from UAW.
Thank you. Hi. Hi, thank you so much for having me. My name is Jane Fox. I'm from UAW Local 2325. I represent the 1,200 attorneys at the Legal Aid Society in New York City, and my local Association of Legal Advocates and Attorneys represents 4,000 legal service workers in New York. And we're part of the mighty UAW, where no matter what sector we come from, auto, aerospace, higher ed, or legal services, we fight for the working class. And just across town, there are 1,000 UAW members here today who I've told about this struggle. We're standing in solidarity with all of you. We're here to come to Washington this week to demand our elected representatives stand with us in the fight for our 4 core issues: living wages, health care for all, dignified retirement, and getting our time back. Yeah. Workers in this country are being destroyed by the billionaire class who want to lower our wages and make us pay for the most basic necessities: health care, child care, higher ed, and now even rent, by taking out predatory loans and signing up for a lifetime of debt. And none of this is by accident. Russell Vought, Donald Trump, and their Republican friends bought this election to take any government regulations and protections away from regular Americans to ensure their rich friends and bankers keep getting richer. And that's why from day one, they've gone after the CFPB and the workers who keep it running. Without the CFPB to fight for consumer protections, Wall Street will come for all of us. And they'll come with everything they've got. And we've seen this before in the 2008 financial crisis, when banks and the auto industry got bailed out and American workers got hung out to dry, and UAW workers gave back to keep the auto industry running. And since then, the CFPB has been a shield against corporate greed, and now when we need it more than ever, it's under attack. And debt is killing us, literally. We've heard the horror stories of folks going bankrupt from hospital bills and folks thinking about taking their own lives because of student loans they can never pay back. But we can fight debt, and we can win. And I have a story for all of you from the UAW. In 2004, the UAW took on a fight many told us was impossible. We set out to organize a foreign automaker, Volkswagen, at a plant in the South, in Chattanooga, Tennessee. When we started our contract campaign there, we surveyed members at the plant, and over 55% of those workers had outstanding medical debt. They were in collections and having their wages garnished, all while Volkswagen made $20.6 billion in profit in that year alone. Volkswagen put their workers' health on the line to pay shareholders. And medical debt was one of the driving forces behind our organizing campaign in Chattanooga. And in labor, we say the boss is the best organizer. And there is no bigger boss than debt. And in Chattanooga, instead of killing us, we made debt radicalize us. And last week, our organizing pulled off the impossible because UAW members at Volkswagen ratified their first union contract with 20% raises and an affordable health care plan that ensures these workers never have to go into debt again to pay for their health care. If we're going to change things for more American workers, then we have to fight back against debt with everything we have. Labor and agencies like CFPB both have a role to play, because we have to force those in power to realize that in the richest country on earth, we can pay for the public services we deserve if the rich pay what they owe. And we know who we're up against. They want to steal our wealth, our future, our American dream, and they do not want us to have a better life. They want to keep us chained to debts we can't pay, debts with terms that are rigged from day one. And we know in the UAW that there are only two things that can protect the working class from vultures like these, and that's a strong union contract and a strong regulatory agency like the CFPB that can make sure employers have real fear when they try to break the law and try to go after the savings of average Americans. And that's why the UAW is here today to stand with CFPB workers to make sure that this agency, an agency that actually looks out for the working class and actually fights corporate greed, isn't taken down by the Trump administration, because our future belongs to us and not to our creditors.
That was awesome, Jane. Thank you. Next up, it is my pleasure to introduce Rob Randava from the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights.
Thanks, and hi, everyone. Rob Randava, I'm a senior counsel with the Leadership Conference, and we're a coalition of more than 240 national civil and human rights organizations. I would say about the only good thing to come out of the 2008 financial crisis, when the economy nearly collapsed and millions of families lost their homes due to shoddy mortgage lending, was the creation of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And it's the only agency in our banking system that's focused on what's good for consumers. And for 14 years, it was the enforcer of consumer and civil rights laws in the financial space, like the Equal Credit Opportunity Act and countless others. And its work has affected the bottom line of people and families in every single community that the Leadership Conference represents, and every single community that the Leadership Conference doesn't represent. And it's put billions of dollars back in their hands. And the way it does it can be boiled down to the most simple notions of honesty and fair play. It's the laws that the CFPB was enforcing until last year say that if you want to take people's money, you just have to do it fairly. And if you want to lend people money, then they have to be able to pay it back without getting trapped. And that's all this agency is really about. And it speaks volumes that for all the fake populism that this administration ran on, talked about and lifted up on the campaign trail, that it has such a big problem with that, to the point where instead of making a better case to the public, it just keeps on breaking laws to stop this agency and all the good people who have been serving our communities for years. So as long as we still have laws on our books, this agency is going to be back. Make no doubt about it. Make no mistake about that. And but the damage is being done to the tune of billions in the meantime. And it's time to end this stupid war against the CFPB and let these people here behind me go back to work. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Santiago Suero from Unidos.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for being here. Thank you to Senator Warren, Protect Borrowers, and Americans for Financial Reform for inviting me to join you today. I am Santiago Suero, Senior Policy Analyst at Unidos US. We're the largest Hispanic civil rights and advocacy organization in the country. The Latino community is a working class community. Our recent research shows that 80% of Latinos are working class. And like most working class people across the country, we are struggling to get by. We are working harder than ever, but falling further behind. Housing feels out of reach, healthcare is too expensive, and far too many families are just one unexpected expense away from falling into financial crisis. These pressures are not new, but they have become impossible to ignore. Economic insecurity is now shaping elections, public sentiment, and daily conversations in households across the country. At the same time, the banking system is adding to this strain. Overdraft fees, credit card late fees, and high interest rates and debt burdens are costing consumers tens of billions of dollars every year. For the average working class family, that means they're paying thousands of dollars every year. And that can make the difference between paying rent and putting food on the table. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau played a critical role in addressing these costs. Since its creation, it's returned more than $21 billion to consumers. And in recent years, the Bureau took steps to cap overdraft fees, to cap credit card late fees. which are actions that would have saved working class people and Latinos billions more. But sadly, these efforts were blocked. The administration and policymakers should deliver their promise of affordability by supporting the CFPB, increase its capacity, fully fund their work. Instead, the agency is being hollowed out and undermined just when families need it most. Investing in Latino families and the working class isn't just right. It's essential for America's future and for all Americans to thrive. That is why we urge policymakers to invest in the Bureau, protect it, and ensure that it can fulfill its mission. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So next up we have my friend Adam Rust from the Consumer Federation of America.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for Protect Borrowers and AFR for putting this on. So what I hope you'll take from what I say today is really simple. The CFPB exists to protect people, not predatory profits. What I want to talk today about is how people aren't actually getting relief under this new administration, and there are hundreds of thousands of people who are hoping the CFPB will be their champion. You know, we just overcame a rough few weeks where it looked like the CFPB might run out of its resources, its financial resources. And yet more than 800,000 complaints from the consumer complaint database were still active, still outstanding, still unresolved. The CFPB's current administration says they don't need to do any work. Well, clearly they need to do a lot of work. Yes. Consumers need a champion. The champions are right here. Right? They need a champion. They need the CFPB to protect them, not predatory profits. But here's what's happening right now. Companies know that no one's watching. You can look at the data, and it shows, beginning around last summer, companies started to realize that no one would hold them accountable. And you can see the numbers in the complaint database. Rates of relief have fallen steeply, right? If you go back to 2024, when the agency was allowed to do its work, complaints generally on about half the time resulted in some kind of relief to consumers, maybe a monetary relief, maybe just get your problem fixed. Well, beginning in around June, those numbers started to slip. First down to about 40%, then by July, mid 30%. Fast forward to November, 5%. December, 1%. 50% with our champions. And without them, 1%. That's the difference. We want them to protect people, not predatory profits. And here's another unacceptable reality right now. Service members aren't having their problems resolved either. Again, there were more than 10,000 outstanding, unresolved complaints from service members when Russell Vogt was saying, our work's done, we're ready to go home. Does that make any sense? No. And in December, again, they say they're helping service members. Fewer than 5% of complaints were resolved favorably for service members in December. If we can't protect the people who protect us, what does it say our priorities are? It says our priorities are to protect predatory profits. And here's the bottom line. When enforcement weakens, abuse grows, right? The CFPB exists, we know, because markets won't police themselves. Standing down now means more unlawful foreclosures, more wage garnishment, more households where their finances have been damaged. And that can be for a long time that they remain damaged, right? So to close, if we let this watchdog be silenced, we're letting financial companies push the limits. We're letting them impose junk fees. We're saying, go ahead and raise costs. You don't need to follow the rules. And American families will pay the price. So I say, let's go back to protecting people, not predatory profits.
Thank you, Adam. Next up, I want to invite Graciela Aponte Diaz, who until very recently was also at the CFPB and is now at the Center for Responsible Lending.
Thank you. All right. Hi. Thank you so much. So my name is Graciela Aponte Diaz. former CFPB employee. Now I'm at the Center for Responsible Lending, one of the organizations that helped create the CFPB. 1 year ago today, many of us were protesting outside CFPB headquarters because the newly appointed director, Vogt, began his assault on the agency. He said he wanted federal employees to feel trauma, and he got exactly what he asked for. On February 13th, I got a Signal chat alert. My colleagues were getting termination emails. I was out of town, so I called my husband and I said, can you stay on the phone with me while I open this email? And there it was, an email telling me I was fired. My amazing job helping consumers, my health insurance, my financial security gone with one click. Before I got fired, I was working with the NAACP to provide CFPB resources on fraud to community members in Altadena, California, affected by the wildfires. I won't say more about the trauma because today isn't just about what they did to us, it's about what we did next. They fired the wrong people. They fired advocates, they fired brilliant lawyers, they illegally fired fighters, and we didn't disappear. We organized. NTEU National, NAACP sued, NTEU 335 mobilized, consumer groups filed briefs, fired employees strategized and pushed back, and together we won. We're still here, still defending the CFPB. At the Center for Responsible Lending, we're stepping up where the CFPB currently can't. We are collecting stories from across the country from families that are impacted by predatory lending, and we are fighting for them. We are going to work as much as we can until the CFPB is back. And finally, like Bad Bunny said, ven subiendo que no lo vamos a bajar, which means come up because we are not going back down.
I'm thrilled to welcome our last speaker here, Diane Thompson, who has done 2 laps at the Bureau and is now at National Consumer Law Center.
Hey everybody, it's so good to be here. I was also one of the people in the second tranche of illegally fired workers, even though I had put in for retirement from the federal government. That was a bit of a doozy. And I totally understand what Graciela says about like needing somebody there with you, and you got that email. That was not a nice email to get. So I'm Diane Thompson, and I'm with the National Consumer Law Center, where we've been fighting for economic justice on behalf of working people and low-income folks for over 50 years. We are the original OGs. And before, as many of you know, before I came to either NCLC or to the Bureau either time, I worked in East St. Louis as a legal services advocate. And this was before Senator Warren had her brilliant idea, much less before Senator Warren and Senator Durbin sat down in a room together and wrote the CFPB into law. And I could tell you stories all day about why the CFPB was needed. I had clients that killed themselves because of unaffordable predatory home loans from which they could see no escape. I had clients who told me that the loan they got to buy a home meant that their lives were worse than when they were living in public housing. We saw people whose lives got trapped in a cycle of debt through payday loans. We saw people shut out of opportunity and despair. You would walk into people's homes and you could feel how all of the hope and all of the striving for a better life for them and their children had been crushed by debt. And one of the things that was astonishing to me was watching the work and the hard work, the unrelenting hard work of my clients get siphoned off by millionaires and billionaires who complained about welfare deadbeats when they were the ones living off of other people's hard work. I want to tell one story that's not so dramatic about it. And this is a story about how corporate greed and incompetence dispossesses people of their homes and dispossesses people of their assets without any cause on their part. So my client, I'm going to call her Louisa Sims, came to me and she said, I've always paid my mortgage, but they've put me in foreclosure. And when I call, they say, we don't care. We're just taking your house away from you. This woman had paid on her mortgage for over 20 years, despite being truly low income. She was working, but she was not making enough to make ends meet. But she had paid this mortgage for over 20 years. There was not much left on this house. This house was worth more than what was left on the mortgage. So I got involved. It took me 6 months. It turned out what had happened was they had decided they didn't like one of her checks. And they had mailed that check back. Now, I was working in East St. Louis, Illinois. They had mailed that check back to an address in East St. Louis, Indiana. Now, I do not know that there is an East St. Louis, Indiana. I do not know what happened necessarily to that letter, but I know it was mailed there. And then because she didn't get that notice, she didn't send in an extra check. She knew that something funky had happened. When she called to try to figure it out, they said, too late, we're taking the house. I think it took me 6 months to get that straightened out. And they kept trying to add on fees and rack things up and this and that and the next thing. We had to get it all wiped out. Now, that is something that the CFPB fixed for people. That complaint system we're talking about, that is the kind of thing that the CFPB just fixed. Like even just submitting that complaint to the CFPB, most servicers, mortgage servicers would now just like, oh yeah, we're sorry, our bad, we'll take the money. Like that's all she wanted to do was to pay off her mortgage, and the bank just wanted her house. So, the CFPB stopped that kind of nonsense. It stopped it by taking complaints. It stopped it by enforcement, and it stopped it by supervision. All of those are things that Vogt killed as fast as he possibly could. And the cutting of supervision is ridiculous because you can catch those kinds of mistakes when it's actually a system-wide problem. You fix it, you get it sorted. The bank doesn't even have to be embarrassed, right? You can just move forward. People can go on with their lives. It's a cheap, easy way to fix problems and to fix them for lots of people, even people who don't know what to do, even people who don't know to call, can't find their way to a lawyer, just figured that it was their fault that the bank was taking their home. They didn't know what else to do, so they rolled over. CFPB could fix it for all those people and save those homes and save those lives. But Vogt has decided not to go that way. It is heartbreaking to see what has happened to the CFPB and what has happened to working families all across this country in the absence of the CFPB. Whenever I get asked by the press how I feel, I have to like beneath the rage is just this ache. It's the ache for all of the workers. It's the ache for all of the families. It's the ache for all of the young people starting out in their lives who already feel crushed and destroyed by debt. And what I want, I think what we all want, is a world where every single person, every single family has the ability to build a life of meaning and purpose, to go for their dreams, to have financial stability, to have the ability to have enough economic stability that they can imagine what it is they want to do with their life besides just desperately try to survive. We want a world where the wealth that people generate stays in their communities and in their families and is not sucked off to support billionaires jet setting around the world. The Bureau is part of that. The Bureau is a major way that we were moving towards that world. And that is why we see these attacks on it, because it is the force of government to equalize opportunity between the powerful and the less powerful, and to build opportunity for people all across this country. So in my work, I often think about Louisa Sims and the other clients I represented, and I think about whether or not what I'm doing would serve their interests and what they would think about what I'm doing. And I know that they would all be right here with all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diane. I just want to end by reminding everybody why you're here one more time. Donald Trump ran on a promise to make life more affordable for people across the country, the working class voters that believed his story and put him into office. And from the minute he came into power, he has done everything he could to undermine that promise, to make life harder for working people, and to pull down the only check on billionaires and abusive corporations, which is the public power, which is the federal government. So I'm thrilled to be here with my friends and former colleagues at the CFPB, calling for Russ Vought to be impeached, calling for Congress to fund the CFPB, to stand up for this watchdog, and to call on President Trump to deliver on his promise and make life affordable for people instead of giving away the farm to billionaires and big corporations. Thank you all for joining us today. This concludes our press conference.